as requested, I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to make a sock monkey. These are my two sock monkeys that I have made, so I will do a tutorial on how to make a sock monkey for you guys so you can make your own. Step 1, so you need to gather your equipment, I guess. First off, you're going to need a pair of socks. Men's work socks work the best. If you use women's work socks, they tend to be a little bit shorter, so then you get shorter legs. But that's totally up to you. You'll need a pair of scissors, so something good for cutting fabric like this. You'll need a needle and thread, and then stuffing for the inside of your monkey, and you'll need buttons for your eyes if you want eyes on your monkey. That's up to you too. You're going to take one of your socks and you're going to flatten the sock out so that it's folded this way instead of being folded this way. And this part of the sock is going to form the body of your monkey. So once you have your sock folded this way, then you can take a marker and you're going to draw a line down the middle of this part of the sock, because this will become the legs of your monkey. So you can measure if you want, or there's lots of patterns online. If you want to Google like a sock monkey pattern, you can use that too. I've made enough sock monkeys that I kind of know what I'm doing, so I don't need to do that. But I will measure in half to determine where the halfway point of this sock is, and then I will cut a line, and then that'll make the two legs. So I have cut the legs of my sock monkey. You want to cut just until you get to the heel part. So the heel part starts right there. Then you're going to turn your sock inside out, and then you're going to stitch up the legs. So you're going to fold them back this way, and you're going to do an overhand stitch. Well, you can do whatever stitch you want, but an overhand stitch works the best. And you're going to start here, and you're going to stitch along to make a seam so that you can stuff the leg, but make sure that you leave an opening here, so that way you want to leave an opening here so you can stuff the body of your monkey. When you're sewing the foot, if you want a rounded foot, you can cut this into a rounded, you can cut it into a round so it looks like this. If you want a square foot, you can leave it. So then you're just going to cut this and then start here and then sew with an overhand stitch all the way down the leg, just like this. I will show you. Okay, so here I am. I'm just cutting a rounded edge for the foot of my sock monkey, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. You can match up the socks like this way so that you know that you'll have the same rounded tip. Okay, so now I have my two legs, and I am going to then thread my needle and then sew this part up. And then I'm going to start at the folded side just like this. Where it's still connected, I'm going to make my locking stitch. So I'm going to go through the same spot about 3 times or 4 times to make sure that the stitch is secure. Make sure that you're sewing the monkey inside out, and then you're going to turn it the right way. And then you're going to sew around this part. So the locking stitch that I'm using means I'm going in from the same side, so every time I'm going through this direction and then out the other side like this, and then I'm just pulling it tight, and then so around, and you're going overhand over the whole piece of fabric. You want to make sure that your stitches are nice and even and close together, so that way when you stuff the sock it won't make a hole and the stuffing won't come through. Once you get to about 1 inch from the heel part of the sock where the butt of your sock monkey is going to go, you're going to stop and you're going to leave a gap just like this, and then you're going to do the exact same stitch on the other leg to close it up. Okay, so after you finish sewing up the legs of your sock monkey, both legs, then you're going to right side your sock monkey, so you're going to flip it back the way that it was, just like this. And then if you're having difficulties with the legs, a straw or a chopstick or something long and skinny like a ruler, you can use that to help turn the pieces inside out. That'll help with the tail and the arms, which come from the other sock, which tend to be skinnier. So once you turn it inside out, you'll have something that looks like this, with the opening so that you can stuff the legs and the body. The next step is to take sock number 2, and we're going to cut this into a few pieces to make the tail, the arms, the ears, and the mouth. I have gone ahead here and marked with my chalk pieces the parts for the sock monkey that I'm going to cut out of the second sock. So here we have the 2 pieces to this line that will become the arms of our sock monkey. This part cutting along these lines, that's going to become the mouth of the sock monkey. This part here and this part here are going to be the ears, and then along this part here is going to be our tail. Usually you have one end skinnier than the other end, and then we'll sew along this line to create the tail. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut these pieces out. Same with the legs. If you want rounded hands, you can cut along this edge to make a rounded hand for your monkey. With the mouth, I always cut a little bit extra around the heel of the sock so that I have time, when I'm sewing it on, I can fold this part under itself to create a nice seam for my mouth. Now I have my 6 pieces that I'm going to sew. Once you have all of your pieces cut out, the next step is to flip them all inside out, the same thing you did when you were sewing the legs together on the body. And then you're going to use the exact same stitch to sew around to close up all the edges, but make sure that you leave a little bit of space on every piece so that you can turn it inside out and stuff it. When you're sewing the arms of your sock monkey, it's easiest after you turn it inside out to start sewing at this side around the hand, and you're going to go all the way around and then just stop at this corner, and then so that it looks like this. That way this opening you can use to put the stuffing in and to turn it right side out. So I have finished sewing the arm, and I'm going to show you how I turn it inside out. So I use my thumb, and then I use my thumb and my finger to flip it that way. And then I check for holes along this seam, just in case. If there are holes, I flip it back inside out and re-sew up that spot. For the tail, usually you cut one end into a pointed shape, so that way when you have your tail, one end is slightly narrower than the other end. So I've just gone ahead and cut it here, and then I'm going to start the exact same stitch that I've been doing for all the other pieces here. And I'm going to sew all the way along this line to close this up into a sleeve. And then the same thing when you get to this spot, you're going to leave this opening so you can turn it inside out. So I finished sewing up the tail, and now I'm going to turn it inside out, but it's too small to use my fingers, so I'm going to use a knitting needle to help me push this side of the tail through. Okay, so I finished getting the tail turned inside out. It's super skinny. Now I have all of my pieces, so I have my 2 arms sewn, my 2 ears sewn, the tail, the mouthpiece, which you don't have to do anything with until we attach it to the body, and then the body. Our next step is to stuff all of these pieces. I like to start by stuffing the smaller pieces, so I'm going to start by stuffing the ears. You can put in as much stuffing as you want, it's completely up to you. And you can always add more stuffing after if you don't like the way something looks. I have stuffed all the extremities. Do your best to make the arms about the same size and make your ears about the same size. And then your tail, if it's a little bit chunky, you can try to roll out the stuffing to move it around a little bit. And now we're going to stuff the body. When I stuff the body, I start by stuffing the legs, and then I stuff the body part. Okay, so now the body of the monkey is stuffed, and the first step is to close up this hole. So what you're going to do is pick one side to start on. Don't forget too, when you're stuffing, to make sure that you put stuffing in the butt of the monkey and in this part right here so that you create the hip joint. You're going to pick one spot to start, and then you're just going to slowly pull the pieces together this way and sew all the way across. If you want to be fancy, you can try and turn the pieces inside out, folding this part towards the inside on both sides, kind of like this, to create a softer seam. All right, so once you have the body stuffed, the legs stuffed, and the crotch sewn up so that you have one piece of sock monkey, the next step is to attach all the other pieces. So we have our ears, our mouth, our nose, our ears, our arms, our tail, and our mouth. I'm gonna start with the ears. So you're gonna take the ear, after you have it stuffed, you're going to then need to close the piece that you've sewed, or sew the opening closed, and then attach it to the monkey, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I finished sewing. I've sewed up this spot. Now my needle and thread are still attached, and I'm going to position it how I want on my sock monkey. So I'm going to place it about here. So then I'm going to take my needle and go through the head of the sock monkey just a little bit like this to pull my ear into place. And then I'm going to use the same kind of locking stitch to go this way and so I'm going to pick up a little bit of the body and then the bottom of the ear and go that all the way across the ear until it is attached. All right, so now we have our ears sewn on. They're a little bit uneven, but that's okay. Now we're going to take our tail and sew the tail on. So you're going to pick a spot on the back where you think the tail would look good, and we're going to put the tail on. All right, to attach the arms, I fold the ends in like this, and then I sew this seam up, and then I place the arm on the body where I want it, a little bit below the ear. Also remember that you need space for the mouth to go in here, and then I sew the tail the same way once it's folded, and then once it's folded and closed, then I just stitch across the top. Okay, so now we have both arms, both ears, and the tail sewn on, and our monkey is almost finished. So we have a nice monkey like this. Now we're going to sew the mouth on. So the mouth is going to go across the sock monkey just like this, and then we're going to stuff the mouth. So what you're going to need to do is trim it so that it fits between the ears and the mouth and position it where you want it. So I'm going to go ahead with I'm going to fold it in half so it's the same, and I'm going to go ahead and trim it with my scissors closer to the white part because I want a smaller mouth on this monkey. Okay, so now I've trimmed it just like this. I'm going to put some stuffing in it. I might need to add some or take some out. Then when I go to put it on my monkey, what I'm going to do is fold these corners over and then sew through both layers onto the body of the sock monkey so that it creates a nice seam. When I sew the mouth on, I like to first start by making my locking stitch in the body of the monkey, and then I have my one corner folded, and I'm going to start by putting my needle through the corner just like this, and then pulling to put the corner of the mouth onto the monkey. And then I'm going to take the amount of stuffing out. I'm going to sew part of the mouth, and then I'm going to put the stuffing back in and finish sewing the mouth. So I'm going to start this way because the mouth I think is the most difficult part, and casually just fold the edges. And then I'm going to take from the body up into the two folds of the mouth. Alright, so now we have the bottom half of the mouth sewn on. I've sewed just along the bottom with a locking stitch here, and then once I get to this corner, I like to put an additional locking stitch just to hold it in place. Now we're going to put the stuffing back into the mouth, so just slide it in the top, just like this. And then you can decide if you need more or less stuffing and how you want the mouth of your monkey to look. Now, when you sew the top, just how when you folded the inside of the arms into themselves to create that nice line, you're going to fold this over itself just to create a nice little seam. And then the same way that you sewed the bottom of the mouth on, you're going to sew the top of the mouth on by going through the body and then through the two layers of the mouth. Alright, then once you've finished sewing the top on, you just put a locking stitch at the same end where you started, and then you've finished your sock monkey. If you want to add eyes, that's totally up to you. I'm not going to add eyes in this video for this sock monkey. But essentially you just pick where you would want to place them and then sew them on the same way you sew on a button if you know how to do that. I would like to give a big shout out to my grade 10 art teacher, Ev Cameron, because we made sock monkeys in crafts class, and that's where I learned how to make a sock monkey, so that's super awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial on how to make a sock monkey. It's a little bit sus, but that's okay. And I wish you the best of luck with your own sock monkeys.